Want to be happy? Build a life, not just a business.
Living that believing life. Out here living that believing life. Every day we living that believing life. Hustle like we're living that believing life. Living life, yeah, so we grinding it out. Every single day we be grinding it out. Hustle like we living that believing life, oh. That believing life, oh.
Hey, it's Evan Carmichael, and this channel was created to help you overcome the #1 challenge that is holding you back, a lack of belief in yourself. You watch these videos because you know you've got something more inside you too. You have Michael Jordan level talent at something. So today, let's live your best belief life and get some insight into how billionaires think to get some success advice from the top. Enjoy. Okay, let's kick it off with lesson #1. Choose service and adventure with Jeff Bezos.
Any young person, even before they start their career, is to really think about their choices. Because I find young people, and when I was young, I made this mistake too. You can get very fixed on your gifts. So everybody has gifts. You know, you have gifts and you have things that you didn't get gifted. Maybe you're extremely beautiful. Maybe you're extremely good at mathematics. There are a lot of things that you can be given. But those things can confuse you because they're not the things that construct your life. It's your choices that construct your life, not your gifts. You can celebrate your gifts. Be proud of them. Be happy of them. Actually, don't be proud of them. Be celebratory of them. But you can't be proud because they're gifts. They were given to you. You didn't earn them. You can only be proud of the things you earn. And so, as I got older, I started to realize I wasn't proud of my gifts. I was always good at school. School was always easy for me. And I was always proud that I was a great student. I got A's in all my classes. I was good at math, all of that. And I thought that's who I was. But it's not true. Those are the things that are gifts. What was hard for me is deciding to work hard, deciding to use my gifts in certain ways, to challenge myself, to do things that I didn't think I could do, to put myself in uncomfortable situations. We all I would say to a young person, you can choose a life of ease and comfort, or you can choose a life of service and adventure. Which one of those, when you're 90 years old, are you going to be more proud of?
Lesson #2, work with competitors with Bill Gates.
What about Steve Jobs in those days? What was your relationship with him in the early days, and how did it change?
Well, we were both there at the very beginning. The Apple I was a kit computer that Steve Wozniak designed, and he worked with Steve, and they came and offered it at various of these computer club meetings, and we went to lots of computer club meetings. So we were sort of colleagues in pitching the gospel of personal computing. We were kind of competitors. The time we worked together most intensely was after the IBM PC came out. Steve had a group, actually a small group at Apple, that was doing the Macintosh, and he came to us early on and asked us if we'd commit resources. We actually put more people on the project than Apple did, and did the early application software that used that mouse graphics interface. And so it was a huge win both for Microsoft and for Apple when the Macintosh became so successful.
Lesson #3, get out of your comfort zone with Richard Branson.
It looks like you always go out of your comfort zone, right? Coming onto an island that was completely deserted, no fresh water, you didn't even have the money to buy it, and now you're sleeping on a tent on the beach trying to figure out how to get fresh water here. You do that often. You did it with the airline.
I mean, I was just somebody that experienced the bad experience of traveling on airlines. I was actually trying to get to the BVI, the British Virgin Islands, one day from Puerto Rico, and the same lovely lady was waiting for me, and I'd been away for 3 weeks, and American Airlines bumped the flight. And so I went to the back of the airport, I hired a plane, I hired a blackboard, I wrote Virgin Airlines one way, $29 to the BVI, went around all the people who'd been bumped, and I filled my first plane. And that got me thinking, you know, that airlines do bump people. They don't care about you or me, particularly in the air. And so I then rang up Boeing and said, do you have any second-hand 747s?
No kidding. I mean, it was literally that. You just sat in the airport and said, I'm starting an airline right now because I'm frustrated.
Exactly. And I think most of the best entrepreneurial ideas come out of frustration. I think, you know, if you're frustrated about something, the best way of sorting it out is get out and do it, and you've got yourself a business.
Also, to make sure you're actually taking action after watching this video, I've designed a special free worksheet just for this video. The worksheet will highlight all of the lessons learned in this video, as well as pull out our 3 favorite learnings and quotes that will inspire you to actually do something. The worksheet will also give you space to write down what your key takeaways are and your specific plan of action to make sure you're getting results. If you want the worksheet designed specifically for this video, absolutely for free, there's a link in the description below. Go click on it and start building the momentum in your life and your business. I'll see you there. Lesson number 4, value people with Oprah Winfrey.
You find that behind the facade of all of your opinions and your beliefs, that at the heart of us, we all want the same thing. I want the same thing that you want. And I know that whether you are Republican or Democrat or Libertarian or whatever you call yourself, that underneath everybody is this desire and need to be valued and to know that what you say, what you think, what you want to do in the world, your fullest expression of yourself, that thing matters.
Lesson number 5, have fun with Elon Musk.
You celebrated your 30th birthday with a masked ball in Venice. 40th birthday, I was told you had a fight with a samurai sword fighter. What is your plan for your 50th birthday next year?
Well, so my 40th birthday was in Venice. It was technically a post-apocalyptic masked ball. Because after the apocalypse, how much clothing do you really have? You know, it's probably going to be a little ragged, a little burnt. You know,
no plans for the 50th?
Yeah, 50th. The half-century party. I'll have to think of something. Usually go with some kind of crazy theme. The party where I ended up wrestling with the world champion sumo wrestler, which by the way also caused me to burst a disc in my neck. So, 5 minutes of glory for 5 years of pain. That really hurt. So that party was Victorian Japanese steampunk. So that was cool. I have to think of something for the half-century party.
You have a little time to think.
I mean, hey, being on Earth for a half-century, that's like, hey, I'm still alive. Wow, cool.
Lesson number 6, learn the money game with Grant Cardone.
I worked at McDonald's, I got fired. I worked at a furniture store, I got fired. I worked in a car dealership, I was fired 6 times from the same guy. I just quit leaving. And I've been fired so many times, I finally figured out how to get fired and keep my job. I mean, really. So
Talent.
I'm a sales guy not because I wanted to. That was not something I wanted to do. My dad was a sales guy. My dad told my mom before he died, tell those boys to learn how to sell. He knew he was going to die. And he's like, tell those boys to learn how to sell and they can go anywhere. I didn't know that. My mom didn't tell me that until I was like 25, 26 years old. And I had to take a sales job. She wanted me to be a professional. So I went and got an accounting degree, got out of college. There was 25% unemployment. I didn't know it. I didn't know anything about sales. I didn't go to college to become a salesman. But it was the only job I could get when I was 25 years old. It was be unemployed or take this job selling Toyotas. Mm-hmm. I didn't even know what a Toyota was. This is years ago. Toyota wasn't even a thing yet. And so I took this job that I thought it was just going to be a temporary job. I said, okay, I'm going to do this until I can get a real job. And that ended up becoming my career. I actually hated sales, because all the jobs I had outside of McDonald's were part-time sales jobs. I sold clothes. I remember selling clothes. I'd sell an outfit and I'd make $6 on it. So kind of hard to get excited about $6, but it was $6 more than I had. And I was trying to put myself through college and pay for all kind of ridiculous things I was doing at the time. And I leaned into the sales thing and started learning it. I was just shooting some material today for Cardone University. We have probably, without me over promoting my own product, we probably have the most viewed sales training system in the world today. And I'm saying that not to brag, but to tell the viewer, this came out of a job I didn't want and didn't like. But when I leaned into it and said, hey, I need to commit to this thing because I have to learn how to do this. I have to learn how to bring revenue in. And whether I liked it or not, I needed to learn the money game. The money game starts with in accounting. And it might have been the thing I learned in accounting as I sit here and tell you this story, because in accounting, I remember studying financial statements in accounting classes. It was accounting, the principles of accounting. I thought I was going to learn how to make money. That's not what they're teaching there. But I remember there was on a page in the accounting book, the blue accounting book that I detested and hated. There was a page about an income statement. And then they would compare income statements of these companies. Well, the top thing of every page was income, revenue, or gross sales. And later, looking back, didn't know it then, but looking back later, I'm like, oh, that's the most important part of a company. If it wasn't the most important part of a company, they wouldn't put it at the top of the income statement.
Yeah, that's true.
On every income statement everywhere in the world, it doesn't matter whether you're in China or Chicago. The top 3 lines, they might be different words there. It is all describing gross sales, revenue by department, gross domestic product, how much revenue is coming through a country. That is what determines whether or not a household, a department, or a company is viable. And I have been fighting the top 3 lines of my personal financial statement, which everybody has one. And it's called sales. So once I leaned into it, boom, I started making money, man. It was literally that simple. I'm going to learn how to bring revenue into my household. I was 25 years old, had no money, lived in an apartment. My rent was $275 a month. I was late on it 4 times a year. Every 3 months I was late because I'd go up and down. And when I leaned into it, all of a sudden, hey, I made an extra $1,000 when I was 25 years old. I'm like, wow, that was the most important money I've ever made in my whole life, because it gave me an idea that I could control my income.
And lesson number 7, the last one before some very special bonus clips, is understand scaling with Mark Cuban.
There's a Shark Tank company from last season called Mush, right? Cool stuff. It's like this oatmeal that they packaged. It's fresh dried oatmeal that they packaged with a little spoon, and it has to be refrigerated, but you just grab it and go. And the response was great from the show. And now, like I just saw their numbers, they went from 50,000 in sales to 100,000 to 125,000 in 3 straight months. It's not scale, but they're growing, right? And they all of a sudden are like, okay, we got to go raise money and we got to do yada, 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 right? Scale is hard not just because of the economic cost, but also because of the people cost and the mind share cost. It's hard when you're dealing with a major company, and in particular if you're dealing with a big company like a Walmart or Costco or whatever, because you only get one shot at those guys. And so like I told Mush with Whole Foods, they're interested. I'm like, you're not ready. You're not ready. You have got to, you got to crawl before you ball, you know, and so I told him it's going to be painful not to go after that big customer, but think about what happens if you go after it and A, it's going to take capital you don't have and you're going to borrow it, or B, it doesn't work out and they return it all. Then all of a sudden you're out of business. And so you're right that you need capital to scale, but you also need the confidence that you can scale and that you can keep your customers happy. And so I always tell people, get to the point where you've taken care of the customers that you can take care of. Once you can demonstrate that, then you can get smart money, and you're talking from a position of power. And then you can go to the Walmarts of the world, the Costcos, and you may not even have to raise money. They may even provide PO leverage or PO support or connect you with a bank that does. And so I guess what I'm saying is don't get too far ahead of yourself, because sometimes sales can be a lot more expensive than you think they are. And you've got to be careful. I've seen several of my Shark Tank companies try to get too big too fast, and it almost put them out of business.
Now I've got a special bonus clip that I think you're gonna enjoy, but before that, it's time for the good deed of the day. This is something new. I believe that you're built to serve, and it feels so good to do something nice for somebody else. So good deed of the day, put down in the comments one thing that you need help with, that you're working on, that you'd love some support or guidance on, and then 2, go comment on somebody else's comment and give them some love, give them some support, give them some encouragement, maybe give them some connections, try to help them solve that problem, even if it's saying, I believe in you. That one little bit of encouragement can be the difference between somebody quitting and continuing on. So the good deed of the day, in the comments below, write down one thing that you need help on, that you're struggling with, that you're working on, and then part 2 is go give love to somebody else in the comments too, and let them know that you believe in them as well.
Maybe I just blank out the word doubt. No, I mean, to be totally frank, I doubted us too. So I thought we, had maybe, when starting SpaceX, maybe had a 10% chance of reaching orbit. So to those who doubted us, I was like, well, I think you're probably right. I mean, the number of times that I was told, because I was taking the money that I earned from PayPal and rolling it into to create SpaceX and Tesla, and I ended up spending it all. It wasn't the intention, but almost both companies went bankrupt. Frankly, 2008 was a tough year. It took us 4 attempts just to get to orbit with Falcon 1. But a lot of times people would tell me this joke, like, how do you make a small fortune in the rocket industry? You start with a large one, is the punchline. And I was like, okay, I already heard that joke 12,000 times, Anyway, and it almost came true. We just barely made it there, that 4th launch of Falcon 1. That's all the money we had for that 4th launch. And then and that wasn't even enough to save the company. We also then had to win the NASA cargo resupply contract. So that came a little after, a little bit later, or right towards the end of 2008. Those are the 2 key things that saved SpaceX. Otherwise, we would have, not made it. So hey, I think those doubters were, their probability assessment was correct. But fortunately, fate has smiled upon us and brought us to this day.
What are your core values personally and professionally?
Core values are, I would say it's the golden rule: do unto others as you would have others do unto you. That's the basis for most religions, but they get sometimes carried away in rites and rituals. But that's the core value: do unto others as you'd have others do unto you. And then it's the feeling of knowing that success unshared is definitely failure. In other words, when you make it, it's not really just about yourself making it. Hey, if you make it, you know you made it. But along the way, one of the great lessons to learn is it's not all about you. It's about your ability to be of service to this planet while you're here. And by saying, me, look what I did, this is me, hey, here's my building, my name's on it, I did this, you didn't. By doing something like that, it kind of takes away from how genuine you are, and because people don't like to just listen to people talk about themselves, how great they are, they want to now incorporate it to make them successful also, or do something a little different, and I think that's very, very important.
There were lots of times, especially in the early days, that were very, very difficult. I think the most difficult experience I had was in 1990 when Oracle had its only loss quarter in history. We've been in business for 20 years. Of those 20 years, we lost money 1 quarter. And we had a very difficult time because we doubled our sales virtually every year for 10 years. 9 out of 10 years, 10 out of 11 years. It was really quite an amazing run. We were the fastest growing company in history. Still are the fastest growing company in history over a long period of time. And suddenly we'd hit a wall. We would reach $1 billion in revenue, and we were having serious management problems all over the place. And the people who were running the company, the $1 billion company, were the same people that had run the company when we were a $50 million company, 1/20th the size. And I had an incredible sense of loyalty to those people who had worked with me to build Oracle. And it was a very painful realization in 1990 that I was going to have to change the management team, that the company had outgrown the management, that people who are good at running a $50 million company are not necessarily, those aren't the same skills. They're just different. Not one is better or worse. They're just entirely different skill set in running a $50 million company than a $1 billion company. And both skill sets are rare and precious. But we needed a different group of managers, and virtually the entire management team had to be replaced. And that means I had to ask people who I'd worked with for a decade to leave. I had to fire people. And that was the most difficult thing I had to do in business, asking a bunch of people to leave Oracle. I had no choice. I'd have to either ask them to leave Oracle, or everyone would have to leave Oracle, because there wouldn't be any Oracle left. So it was, in that sense, it was a simple choice. It was thousands of people worked at Oracle. They deserved the best leadership we could find. And my primary responsibility was to the company and all of the staff, all of our shareholders and all of our customers. And therefore, I had to choose. And if I couldn't make that decision, then I had to go.
The hardest thing for me early on was, because I just started off as, I was an engineer, or, I wasn't even really an engineer, as a student, right? I thought I was going to be an engineer when I graduated. And, when you're building something yourself, you kind of have all the meetings in your head, right? It's like you don't need to articulate the principles so clearly. It's like you kind of can make all the trade-offs on everything from architecture to product to marketing to, just all these things, and you're kind of just, you have the context to trade this off. And I think it's really easy when you start building something to underestimate how much context you need to put out there and how clear you need to be about what you're trying to do. So, most of my mistakes early on in building the company were about not being clear enough internally about what we were trying to do. I mean, there's this very famous episode where like in 2006, a couple years into building the company, Yahoo tried to buy us. And so they offered a ton of money, and a lot of the people who I'd hired at the point, they were kind of experienced technology executives, and this was like all of their startup dream come true, right? They joined, and then within a year or a few months, like the company had the opportunity to exit for this large amount of money. And I really failed through that period to communicate what we were trying to do and what we stood for. And in the absence of that context, then of course it was a rational thing for people to think that this was like a good outcome for us to have.
我不懂技术，我真不懂技术。我到今天为止还不明白 coding 是怎么回事情。我到今天为止，还是不懂这个互联网到底这个技术是怎么搞出来的包括但我觉得不懂技术不等于你不尊重技术。在阿里里面，可能技术人员跟我吵架，我觉得我回忆中14年来从来没吵过架，没法吵，对吧？我们没法吵架。假设我觉得对阿里来讲的工程师，悲剧是一个 CEO 完全不懂技术，最幸运的是也是 CEO 不懂技术。如果 CEO 很懂技术，天天坐在你边上，你活也干不好了，对不对？我告诉你应该这么干，因为我不知道该怎么干，所以呢，我很敬仰地看着他们。到今天为止，我对我们公司的工程师我是非常敬仰，因为没有一条代码是我写，没有一个 coding 是我检查，但是他今天影响了成千上万的人。我觉得是他们把所有我们那些空想变成了现实。我是 show my great respect， 在座的所有工程师是你们改变了这个世界。我们说 vision 不变成现实，一分钱1毛钱都不值。你只有把它变成现实。所以呢，工程师在我们公司里面一直以来，所有人认为阿里巴巴是没技术的，原因是什么 ？Jack Ma 不懂技术，怎么可能有技术呢？讲的也有对，但所以让我们很多公司的工程师受了很多委屈。 但是我觉得也有人问过我这句话：马云，你不懂技术啊？王石好像不懂技术怎么去管互联网公司？我说王石，你们是房地产公司，你会造房子吗？这是两个概念。外行是可以领导内行，关键要尊重内行。
Well, what I want to talk to you about today is a note which I call daily. So if you create a new note in your notepad, or something that you check on a daily basis, this is the most important thing. Name it daily, and then write the word do, colon, and then go down a few lines and write the word don't, colon. And the one thing I would ask you to do walking out of this is to every single day, just for a week, wake up to this note, check it throughout the day, and then also before you fall asleep, check to make sure that you did and you didn't do everything. So what you put in each one of these is you have a list of everything that you want to do every single day, and you have a list of things that you don't want to do. And the easiest way to add to the don'ts is to notice something that you never want to do again, and you just add that to it. Very, very simple. I'm just going to share some of mine. These might be a little bit personal and embarrassing, but here we are. Number one on my do list is to stay present. I think it's so easy to get trapped in the past. It's so easy to think about the future. The most important thing is I stay present, and just reading this brings me back to the present, brings me back to this moment. Number two for me is be vulnerable. Show people my mistakes, show people my fears, because they can relate, because they're going through similar things. Number three, drink only lemon water and red wine. Great red wine is a great modifier for it. This goes with one of my don't, which is don't drink hard liquor or beer on weekdays. Number three is 6 sets of 20 squats and push-ups throughout the day. I just have to do them every day. 6 sets of 30-second planks. Run for 3 miles. Meditate on this list. Stand up straight, which whenever I say, I always see posture moving in the audience. Say hello to everyone. I just bought a heavy bag, so I'm training with a heavy bag, so I want to spend 10 minutes with a heavy bag every day. I want to do a video journal every single day, and I want to get 7 hours of sleep. On my don't list, and again, this is one of the hardest things, and a lot of these are personal, so I'm not going to read all of them. But on my don't list is don't avoid eye contact. Don't be late. Don't set expectations for someone and not meet them. Don't eat sugar. I'm on the paleo diet, so don't eat wheat, lentils, or dairy. And then, of course, don't drink hard liquor or beer on the weekdays. So this list, while it sounds very, very simple, has been fundamental in establishing patterns for myself. And it's something that I do check every single morning. I check throughout the day, and I check right before I go to bed. And I make sure that I check everything off and go through it. And I've given it to our companies. I've given it to a number of students that I've talked to as we've gone to schools and recruiting. And people have come back to me and said that this is something that works for me. It's something that's easy to do and something easy to remember. One of the most fundamental things about it that I've learned, that I've taken away from it, is how it gives you focus. How it gives you something that allows you to really ignore everything else that's going on, all the other noise, to allow you to focus on what's most important. So this do and don't list for people and individuals in the company has translated to a do and don't list for our company. For Square, we have a do and don't list. We have, these are the things that we're going to do. These are the core things. These are our bold bets. And these are the things we're saying no to for right now. It has been fundamental in allowing us to move fast, to continue to innovate, and to really push the boundaries and continue to invent and question and reset everything that we think about the organization.
I've always believed that a strong mission statement's really important, and I have to say we've never succeeded at it. It's like this odd thing. You know, we've had them every year for 15 years, and they're constantly different, and now we're also cynical. We're like, come on, we're trying to make people happy. I mean, that's the fundamental thing is in consumer service. You know, we're trying to be better, and us in Disney and mission aren't that different. There's a bunch of different tactics at it. But we're an emotional product. We cater to the things that are important but not necessary. And I love that part about it because like when you're selling milk or penicillin, you're selling something somebody needs. And we get to sell something you want, okay, that you choose to do because it's really cool. It's human, you know, to be entertained and to connect to people over entertainment. And so we celebrate that a lot and we want to change the industry. But in terms of like a mission statement, like so many companies have. You know, Facebook talks about a more connected and open world. And then you see that phrase again and again and again, and it's a powerful mantra. We don't have an equivalent. And I think we probably would have been stronger if we do. In the early days, it was to connect people with movies they'll love. Mm-hmm. And it's okay, but it's kind of like the long, kind of awkward phrase, connect people with movies they'll love. And, you know, it's just not punchy. And then so like we used it, we had t-shirts, you know, and then it didn't really motivate anyone, didn't really stick. But we knew we were trying to make people happy with DVDs and then eventually with streaming and original content.
I got an awful lot of good advice from my dad, and he didn't lay it on me. I mean, he just, you know, you picked it up from him, but there was never any of this, you know, do this, do that type of thing at all. But I think he really taught me that it's more important in terms of what's on your inner scorecard than your outer scorecard. I mean, some people get in a position where they're thinking all of the time of what the world's going to think of this or that instead of what they themselves think about it. And if your inner scorecard, if you're comfortable with that, I think you're going to have a pretty happy life. And I think the people that strive too much for the outer scorecard sometimes find that it's a little hollow when they get all through.
When you try a business and you start, you might have hiccups here and there, but it does not mean that that business is not going to work. There must be challenges. In fact, what I keep saying is that life without challenges is very, very boring. So if you have challenges, you just have to know how to work out or how to work around these challenges, and you will be successful once you are consistent. What business doesn't like is for you to try something and then once you have one or two problems, now you want to change and move into another business. That doesn't work in business at all.
Everybody works hard and everybody has their own dreams. There was a time where I used to spend a lot of energy wanting things. Of course, it's easy for me to say, oh, things don't define you because I got a lot of things. Things are nice, I like them. But this is what I learned. When you can surrender to the dream, you get to live in the space of the higher power. You get to live in the space that you purposefully have come to earth to claim for yourself. So, around 1984, I was sitting in bed one morning, Sunday morning, should have been in church, but I wasn't. I was reading the New York Times review of The Color Purple. And I thought, whoa, this sounds like a really great book. I got out of bed in my pajamas, put on my galoshes, and went to the store to get the copy of The Color Purple. I read The Color Purple in one afternoon, went back to the bookstore, bought every book of The Color Purple. I took the books to the office and I said to everybody, y'all got to read this book. Oh my God, you got to read this book, Color Purple. I needed a book club, I didn't have one. So I passed out the book to everybody I knew. Please, read The Color Purple, read The Color Purple. Then I start to hear that somebody's going to do a movie about The Color Purple. But I don't know anybody in the movie business. By this time, I was on AM Chicago. I don't know anybody. I start praying to God. God, please help me find a way to get into Color Purple. I say, Jesus, I don't even have to have a speaking part. I will be, because I went to the movies and I saw on the movie credits, at the last credit, there's something called Best Boy. So I said, Jesus, if you just let me be best girl, that'd be all right by me. I can be best girl. I can carry the script. I can help the people with the water. I can do whatever. So I start praying for the color purple. As divine law would have it, Quincy Jones comes to Chicago, and he is in Chicago for 1/2 of a day because somebody has filed a suit against Michael Jackson claiming that Billie Jean was their lover and that's not his song. So Quincy had taken the red eye to Chicago. He was in his hotel room. He was coming out of the shower, and the television in his hotel room is on AM Chicago. There sits little chubby me with my Jerry curl on AM Chicago. Quincy Jones tells Reuben Cannon, the casting agent, I think I found Sophia. So I get a call from Reuben Cannon who says, I'm calling about a movie. It's called Moon Song. Would you be interested to come and audition? And I say, I have not been praying for Moon Song. No. I have not been praying for Moon Song. I've been praying for The Color Purple. He said, well, I think you should come and audition. So I go to audition. You know, movie people, they make everything all secret. Steven Spielberg didn't want anybody to know he was doing Color Purple. So on the outside of the script, it says Moon Song. But I know all the words by heart. So when I open the script, I know this is The Color Purple, Jesus. This is The Color Purple. Yes. So I auditioned for The Color Purple. I can't even believe it. They don't just want me to be the water girl or the best girl. They are asking me, do I want a part in the movie? Oh, I'm thinking prayer. Prayer works. Prayer works. But listen to this. 3 months pass. 3 months is a long time. I auditioned in February, March, April, May comes. I haven't heard anything. So I call Reuben Cannon. I say, Mr. Cannon, I'm sorry, sir, I haven't heard anything. I expected to hear something by now. And Reuben Cannon, African-American man, says to me, you don't call me, I call you. And I didn't call you. Do you understand that I have real actresses who have auditioned for this part? Real actresses. And he tells me who just left his office. And I went, well, okay, I'm not getting that part. So I hang up the phone and I start crying. I can't believe that God has played this trick on me. I think this is a trick. So I decide that this is because the fat has finally caught up with me. The fat has finally caught up with me, and now I must get rid of the fat. In 2 weeks, I am going to go to a fat farm, and I'm going to lose 25 pounds. I'm going to drink a lot of green juice. I'm going to have some cleanses and colonics. So I also was trying to make peace with it. I said, God, I don't understand. I thought it was for me. You ever had that talk with God? I thought it was for me. I thought it was for me. God, you let me audition with somebody named Harpo. That's my name backwards. Jesus, that was a sign. Wasn't it a sign? And then 3 months pass, and then Reuben Cannon says, real actresses have just left his office. So I start to pray on the track. I'm out on the track at the fat farm, and I am running around at the track at the fat farm. It starts to rain. Y'all know how that is. But I don't even care, because I am praying to God to help me to let it go. Help me let it go, because now I've become obsessed with it and it's now controlling my life. I start praying, running around the track. And I keep hearing this noise, and I can't, there's nobody on the track but me, and I'm running around the track. And I look around, and it is my thighs rubbing together. It's my thighs. My thighs are rubbing together, causing this thunderous sound. There's nobody on the track. So then I really start to cry. Oh, Lord, help me. Help me let it go. Help me let it go. Help me let it go, God. Help me let it go. And you ever did this prayer where you say, okay, Lord, okay, I'm gonna let it go. Then you get up and you go, well, I think I still got a little bit of it. I did. Help me let it go, but I am not gonna be able to see the other actress in my part. I won't be able to see it. Won't be able to see Color Purple. Just can't never see it the rest of my life. I won't be able to see it. So then I started, I don't know where it came from. I surrender all. I surrender all to thee, my blessed Savior. I surrender all. I sang and I cried. I sang and I cried and I prayed some more until I could reach the point where not only will I be able to go to the movie, but I can bless the other actress. I can bless her. I can say, I bless you. I bless you. I bless you with this. I surrender all. I surrender all to thee, my blessed Savior. I surrender all. And I tell you, in my greatest testimony, that the instant I laid that thing down, I'm telling you, when I laid it down and it didn't have me anymore, it had no control over me anymore. I didn't feel anything about it anymore. When I let it go, when I intentionally surrendered it to the power that was greater than I could ever know. The instant that happened, a woman comes running out of the cafeteria screaming, Ofri? Is your name Ofri? For 10 years, nobody could pronounce my name. I said, yes. She said, somebody's on the telephone for you. He said his name's Spielberg. I get to the phone. He says, I hear you're at a fat farm. I said, no, sir. This is a health retreat. He says, I'd like to see you in my office in California tomorrow. This was in Wisconsin I'd like to see you in my office. And if you lose a pound, you could lose this part. No problem do I have. I'll have no problem not losing a pound. So, honey, I packed my bags and I stopped at the Dairy Queen. I got 3 scoops just in case I'd lost half a pound. And the next day, I was in Steven Spielberg's office and he said, "You're hired."
It's really important to differentiate yourself. I say that more than anything. You've got to get to the point and you've got to give the what's in it for them very concisely and very quickly. So with differentiating yourself, I'll use an example. I always say you've got to differentiate. You've got to tell the person or the world why you're unique and why you're different very clearly and concisely. Then you have to let them know why you're unique and different in comparison to other options they may have. And then you need to let them know why that matters to them. So I'll use my own journey and just give you the example. I also say it's really important to sell the problem you're solving, not just the product. So I'll take my Spanx. So when I first invented Spanx, if I were to plug in this equation and how important it was, the first thing I said to the buyer or anybody, if I was in the media, if I got a chance to be on the news, I would say, do you have, you know how women have things hanging in their closet that we have no idea what to wear under? And then they would nod. And so I immediately started with the problem, creating the problem that I'm now about to solve. Then I would say, and then you know how our undergarment options, they're not that great. You have regular underwear that leaves a panty line that you can see, or these very thick, heavy-duty girdles that are too thick under your beautiful clothes or your nice slacks and leave lines on your legs. Okay? Then I've just given them the options that are dysfunctional, and then I tell them, well, I've just invented this product and look what it does. It meets in the middle of the options that are out there, and here's why it's gonna be important to you. Here's why it's gonna matter. You're gonna be able to wear white, you're gonna be able to wear cream, you're finally gonna be able to wear all the fabrics in your closet that you don't wear anymore, and you're gonna look amazing. You're gonna have no lines. So then I would give the what's in it for them. But that's just a quick example, and I like to start with the problem that I'm solving, right. Have them just sort of invest in it with you, and then why the other options aren't so great. People need to know from you, you're the only one that can do it, why you're their best choice.
Well, in my 20s and 30s, I was fanatical about software. I didn't believe in vacations, didn't believe in weekends. I was focused on software day and night. I knew everybody's license plate. I knew when they came into the parking lot, when they left. And I knew every line of code. I enjoyed being a fanatic. I was really focused on Microsoft doing great software and learning from our mistakes and hiring the best people.
Success is a contact sport. You cannot be successful if you don't make contact. You guys interview people and then you never follow anybody up, man. Nobody follows anybody up. I spent $2 million with a lawyer that's never called me back. Same thing for the barber, same thing for the cosmetologist, same thing for the plumber, same thing for the roofer. Dude, you guys don't call people back because you think they're not interested. Do you think I'm only going to have one car accident? People that have one car accident end up in 3 of them. Okay? Divorcees, guy gets a divorce. Everybody here knows somebody's got 4 of them. Buck, he ends up with 4 different attorneys. Like, you guys don't follow up. You are a business, not a lawyer. The chiropractor has the same problem. He goes and spends all this money on equipment. He knows how to do an adjustment. He doesn't know how to build a business.
If you want to have impact, usually delegation's important. Although, individual contributors in terms of inventing a drug or a new approach to things, that's phenomenal. So when Microsoft first got started, I wrote most of the code, and everybody else's code I read and kind of rewrote. And that got us up to 10 people. And then I had to say to myself, okay, we're going to ship code that I didn't edit. And that was hard for me. But I kind of got over that. Then I still said, okay, I'm going to interview everyone, and I'm going to at least look at samples of their code. Well, that got us up to about 40 people. And that was at a point where I had sold way more software than we could write because everybody was so impressed. And I thought, well, I need to collect enough money to keep hiring all these people. But the demand was so high that we were actually falling behind. That's when I hired Steve. And Steve figured out, how to control what promises I made to people, and B, how to hire lots of people, and really good people, and create organizations and teams. So I delegated to Steve that, and he was constantly saying to me, okay, we're going to hire programmers that you've never met. And I'd say, no, we're not. And then he would show me numerically that the constraint wasn't going to work. Then I said, okay. Then I would, know all the managers of the people. And so over time, and of course, I could say the quality per person was falling monotonically, according to me. But large problems, if you want to, write the most popular office productivity software, that one person absolutely can't do that. You can write pretty code. So everyone has to decide what scale of organization they want to work in. Eventually, my role was very much as a leader and a reviewer of managers, but the top people, and I hired some super experienced people, I would make sure they were pursuing a common vision and they were well coordinated. But in terms of a lot of management stuff, they were way better than I was. Now I had to have the framework to know what mix of skills that we needed and when they were working well enough together. But a lot of my value added was picking, say, to do graphics user interface or to do an integrated office type thing, or to go global and not use agents to have Microsoft be present all over the world. And so, yeah, picking what you're good at and how you find the other people to fill in those things, that's super important. And most founders aren't able to scale that up and kind of give up the hands-on things that they used to get a lot of pleasure and comfort from.
During my California springs and summers, I spent most of my days in the high Sierras in Yosemite Valley, working as a river guide and a rock climbing instructor. I loved those jobs, but unfortunately, they didn't pay that well. So I also got a job working a couple of days a week as a computer programmer back in Berkeley. I had learned to program in college. I didn't love programming, but it was fun and I was good at it. And computer programming gave me the same kind of satisfaction as solving math problems and playing chess, both things I enjoyed before I became a confused teenager. At this point in my life, I thought I was making real progress on my journey of self-discovery. I had found a cause. I had a couple of jobs that I loved, and one that was fun and paid the bills. I was pretty happy with my life. My wife was not. What she saw was a college dropout who spent too much time in the mountains doing foolish things. She wanted me to work full-time as a computer programmer or go back to college and finish my degree. We compromised, sort of. I started taking classes at UC Berkeley. I took several classes, but the only one I can remember was a sailing class taught at Berkeley Marina. Once again, I fell in love and began a lifelong affair with the limitless, omnipotent Pacific Ocean. When my class was over, I wanted to buy a sailboat. My wife said this was the single stupidest idea she had ever heard in her entire life. She accused me of being irresponsible, and she told me I lacked ambition. She kicked me out, and then she divorced me. This was a pivotal moment in my life. My family was still mad at me for not going to medical school, and now my wife was divorcing me because I lacked ambition. It looked like a reoccurrence of the same old problem. Once again, I was unable to live up to the expectations of others. But this time, I was not disappointed in myself for failing to be the person they thought I should be. Their dreams and my dreams were different. I would never confuse the two of them again.
One of the things when I really sit and think, why am I comfortable taking risks? What is it?
Yeah. Where's it come from?
I was really lucky when I was growing up. My dad used to actually encourage my brother and me to fail. And so I would come home and sit at the dinner table and he would say, Sarah, what did you fail at this week? And if I didn't have something, he would actually be disappointed. And I can vividly remember coming home and saying, Dad, I tried out for this and I was horrible. And he would high five me. And what I didn't realize
that is so awesome.
I didn't realize it at the time, but he was teaching us that failure is not trying versus the outcome. And so with Spanx and everyone saying it was such a bad idea initially, and I feel like I feel much freer to be willing to fail in the traditional sense because I'm not focused on the end result. And the more, it's like working a muscle. The more you're willing to risk something and maybe fail, you realize there's always a really awesome hidden gift in it.
Exactly.
It's either you meet someone new that brings you to a different place in your life, or you learn something new, and so I always was really excited by how my life grew by every risk I took.
I was lucky that I got started early. I mean, it always helps if you get started early, and my dad happened to be in the investment business, so I would go down to his office on Saturdays. And so at age probably 7 or something, I started reading these books that were around the place. And so I had a 15-year jump on many people in a sense, and that helped a lot. And I was always fascinated by it. I mean, I knew what I wanted to do early, and I think that's a huge advantage too. And then you don't need a lot of brains in this business. I mean, I've always said if you got an IQ of 160, give away 30 points to somebody else because you don't need it in investments. What you do need is emotional stability. You have to be able to think independently, and you have to be when you come to a conclusion, you have to really not care what other people say and just follow the facts and follow your reasoning. And that's tough for a lot of people. That part I think I was just lucky with. I was born that way.
In terms of emotions, it's a truism that in investing, emotions are your enemy.
Absolutely.
That when the market's good, if you feel good, don't. If you feel bad, you should probably do it.
Right.
But how did you? What was that extra thing where so many will acknowledge that, and yet we saw in the current crisis they panicked while you went into seemingly potential disasters like GE and Goldman Sachs.
Yeah. I can't really tell you the answer. I mean, I didn't learn in school or anything. It never bothered me if people disagreed with what I thought, as long as I felt I knew the facts. I mean, there's a whole bunch of things I don't know a thing about. I just stay away from those. So I stay within what I call my circle of competence.
The future has no experts. Right? We entrepreneurs, someday we are the experts. Right? So this is what I think. And when you're an entrepreneur, get used to failure. Today, say Alibaba, you succeed. Well, our company won't last 102 years. Why 102 years? Because every target, every goal we give to our team should be very accurate. We were born in 1999. Last century, we had 1 year. We want to spend 100 years and plus 1 year, 102, cross 3 centuries. So very accurate. We never see we are successful because we are only 19 years old. There's 83 years to go. So we will never say we're successful. We just survived 19 years. We are lucky. But in the past 19 years, we have made thousands of mistakes. As an entrepreneur, don't learn from other people how they succeed. Learn from how the people fail. Because a lot of MBA schools, they teach you successful case studies. When you read too many successful, you think you can be successful. No! There are a lot of things that you don't know. Because, some business school came to Alibaba, write case studies. They say, no, this is Alibaba. And I say, no, this is not Alibaba. They wanted me to sign after 1 week study. They say, this is case study Alibaba A. I said, no, this is not me. They say, Jack, you don't know you. And I said, all right, I signed. And Next 5 years, every year there is a case study in Tsinghua University. I was invited to sitting at the back, listen to the MBA schools talk, learning about our case study. And they always put a competitor. Competitor in Alibaba, who will succeed? For 5 years, they always agree Alibaba will die, the competitor will win. But 5 years, all the competitors died. So how can you learn from the case study like that? Learn from the mistakes. Because the mistake, most of the companies I talk to, entrepreneurs, most of the mistakes they made are the same. Most of the success reasons, you don't know. They're different reasons. So when you learn from the mistakes, not because you want to avoid the mistakes, because when you see the mistakes, when you have these kind of problems, you know how to face it. An entrepreneur have a strong heart towards the difficulties, the mistakes, the troubles, the failures, but should be a warm and soft heart to your colleagues and to the customers.
We haven't had any existential crises, knock on wood. I don't want to jinx anything. But we've had a lot of kind of dramatic events. I remember early on, we only had 125 employees when Barnes & Noble, the big United States bookseller, opened their online website to compete against us, barnesandnoble.com. We'd had about a 2-year window. We opened in 95, they opened in 97. And at that time, all of the headlines, and the funniest were about how we were about to be destroyed by this much larger company. We had 125 employees and $60 million a year in annual sales, 60 million with an M. And and Barnes & Noble at the time had 30,000 employees and about $3 billion in sales. So they were giant, we were tiny, and we had limited resources. And the headlines were very negative about Amazon. And the one that's most memorable was just Amazon.toast. And so I called an all-hands meeting, which was not hard to do with just 125 people. And we got in a room, and because it was so scary for all of us, this idea that now we finally had a big competitor, that literally everybody's parents were calling and saying, are you okay? It's usually the moms calling and asking their children, are you going to be okay? So, and I said, look, it's okay to be afraid, but don't be afraid of our competitors because they're never going to send us any money. Be afraid of our customers. And if we just stay focused on them and instead of obsessing over this big competitor that we just got, we'll be fine. And I really do believe that. I think that if you stay focused, then the more drama there is and everything else, no matter what the drama is, whatever the external distraction is, what your response to it should be to double down on the customer, satisfying them, not just satisfying them, delighting them.
When I was a kid, Glenn, I was like, I knew I was going to do something great and had zero reason to believe that.
Right.
Like it was a total fantasy. Or maybe not. I think everybody has that. I would imagine that every kid has this idea that they're meant for greatness. I know I did. I always thought I was going to be something great. I remember my twin brother. He'd be in the mirror, man. He's like 8 years old. We're 8 years old. He's singing in the mirror like he's a rock star.
Right.
I had to listen to that all the time. and then I start thinking, man, if he's going to be a rock star, he's going to go on and be a big rock star. And I can't, because that wasn't my deal.
Mm-hmm.
I said, what am I going to be? And then I thought, I'm going to be a baseball player. I actually believed I was going to be a baseball player.
Right.
Dude, I wasn't fast enough. I wasn't strong enough. I didn't have the arm. I mean, I had no talent. I didn't have the work ethic. I didn't have somebody pushing me. So I've just always underestimated what I could do. I think everybody does. That's why this 10X thing, that's why I keep telling people, man, you're thinking too small. When I talk to people about real estate, don't do 2 units.
Got to start somewhere. No, you don't have to start with 2 units. You could actually start with 32.
Right.
And by the way, it's going to be a lot easier to make money on 32 than it is 2.
Sure.
If you can just believe that you can. You know, and right now is a time where people are going to have to start believing they can do something else, because we're going to move into a period of time now where there's going to be massive transition, enforced transition on everyone.
As an entrepreneur, you're every department. So I was the before and after butt model, literally. I took a picture of my own butt, took it to Kinko's, got it laminated with and without Spanx on, stood in the stores, and I'm like, hey, look what this can do for you. I was like the packer and shipper. I was the head of sales. I was everything. And you learn very quickly what you're good at and what you're not good at, and what you enjoy and what you don't enjoy. And there's usually a correlation between the two. And so I often say, as soon as you can afford to, hire your weaknesses. And a few years into Spanx, it was abundantly clear that the lane that I needed to stay in was inventing, selling, promoting. Spanx actually is never advertised. Spanx is 18 years old, and the first time we've ever even sampled an ad was in 16. And so I was sort of the advertisement, and me being out in the field talking about the product and sharing the story of the why we're making this, why it's better, was a big part of the formula. And I needed someone to be in the company day to day, running the daily operations.
One part that I'm always very focused on is sort of the structure of these companies and how well are people aligned. And so you can, making sure that people are aligned properly, not just that they say they are. I think this is sort of a very legal kind of a framework to think about what are people's incentives, are they going to be aligned or not? And I think you want to both have formal alignment where you set the structure right, and you want to have informal alignment where the people would naturally try to work together well in one way or another. And I think that somehow tends to get obscured in all these other ways. There's always a prehistory question I like to ask founders of companies, which is how did you meet? What's the prehistory of the company before you got started? And I find that to be a really instructive set of questions to ask. A bad answer is something like, we met a week ago at a social networking function, at a business networking function. We decided to start a company because we both wanted to be entrepreneurs. That's like saying, I married the first person I met at the slot machines in Las Vegas. And you might hit the jackpot, but it's probably a really bad idea. And a much better answer is, we've been talking about this for a long time. Maybe one of us is more on the tech side, the other one's more on the business side. We have these sort of complementary skills. And so I think this question of alignment and structure is incredibly important.
I always was dancing to my own drum. My parents gave me a really long leash, which was a great gift for me growing up. They let me do whatever I wanted to do within reason.
Yeah.
And I always, all of us, we always come against this wall of fear, this crazy wall of fear. And you can either go to the wall and turn around, you can go through the fucking wall.
Yes.
And I always, every time I turned around and went back home because I was too scared, I had crazy resentment. Or crazy guilt that I wasn't able to do it. Regret, not resentment.
Yeah.
Regret.
Yeah.
And every time I went through the wall and got to the other side, it was so addicting. And I was so proud of myself. So let me just give you a quick example. When I was growing up, I grew up in New York City, or in Long Island in the 80s when breakdancing and rap and all this stuff was happening. And I was really into breakdancing. I don't know, I don't look like it, but get some cardboard out here, man. We could do something.
Mike, get some cardboard.
Okay. And I decided that I could make more money probably if I went to Washington, D.C., because the kids in Washington, D.C. couldn't be as good as the kids in New York. We invented this whole genre. So I got my friend Myron, who's my partner. My sister just got her driver's license, and I convinced her to drive us to Washington, D.C. And the whole drive down, I was having all that self-doubt.
Yeah.
At a young age, 14, 15 years old, what if the kids are better? What if no one shows up? What if we get booed? What if we go there and I stink?
Yeah.
And so I was almost talking myself out. I was building the wall of doubt up brick by brick in my own head.
Yeah.
And when we got there, we went to a little bank in Georgetown, and we set up a boom box in a parking lot of a bank, and we hit play, and my friend started spitting on his head, and he passed it to me, and the crowd gathered around. And ultimately, after I did my thing, more people came. I took my hat and I passed it around, and we made about $200. I paid my sister for the gas money, and then awesome. Myron and I split $82, $41 each. Awesome. And this guy, you know, he's counting up the money, and he's counting up the money, and he gets all the money, and then he sprints over to me, and he gives me a bear hug, and he goes, "Jess, we're rich." And what the reason why we were rich is because on that particular trip, despite all the fear, this young little kid that was so scared, I went around that wall and I realized I could be rewarded. And I was like, I want more of that.
2 weeks ago, I went plant only.
Plant-based?
Plant-based.
How's that feel?
I dropped the meat, dude.
That's so, I want to do that. I did that for a week last week.
Yeah.
And I felt amazing. I had a lot of more gas just from all the plants, I think, but just cleaning it out.
That's really too much information for me.
But I've had way more energy.
Yeah.
And less inflammation and less pain. And
yeah, I had noticed, I have a little bit of inflammation in my hands, but that hadn't changed. But the plant-based thing, I watched the Game Changer show. Yeah. And when he said, "Dude, you're eating the middleman." Like when I heard that, that was enough for me, right?
You're eating the middleman?
You're eating the middleman. Meaning the cow. The cow eats the grass.
Right. Go right to the source.
The source is the grass.
Yeah.
And as soon as I heard that, I'm like, what the am I doing eating the middleman? I ain't a middleman guy. I want to go directly to the source.
Where all the energy's at.
Yeah, I mean, that was the line in the show that did me.
Wow.
And I had been thinking about it too. I've eaten meat for 60 years.
Wow.
I grew up on bacon, 4 pieces of bacon every day.
So good.
Oh yeah, totally. The eggs. I have not eaten any meat in 12 days. And my energy is freaking this all day long.
Oh, wow.
3:30 in the afternoon for the last 25 years, I crash at 3:30. Hard crash. I mean, like, I'll see you guys. Call me later, okay? What you doing at 3:30? I got a meeting.
Yeah.
And that meeting was on that nap, dude. And when I hit it, I'm talking coma. Deep sleep. Better than sleep at night. Sometimes it would be 30 minutes, sometimes it'd be an hour and a half. Like comatose. 12 days, I can't take a nap. I try to go take a nap, I cannot fall asleep. That's how good my energy is.
Do you think you're gonna stick with this? Do you think you'll have meat sometimes? Do you think?
I mean, I'm not a fanatic guy. So
you might have a little meat here and there or something.
I'm just gonna eat what makes me feel best.
Yeah.
So I don't care if it was meat, if it was pork, if it was bacon. But right now, as long as I can find the greens, and I haven't missed the meat.
Wow.
My digestion's better. You know, my energy's freaking great.
Yeah.
So I don't know, man.
If you want another amazing video on how billionaires think, check it out right there next to me. I think you'll love it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.
We don't love this product, but we think others will love it. That's not really how it works. If you don't love it, don't expect others will either.
Your relationship with time is such a key component of your life.